Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're really going to be stepping back in time and exploring a figure that I think a lot of us, especially in the Catholic community, might have some misconceptions about.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about Marie Antoinette.
Yeah?
And we've got some excerpts from a book that focuses specifically on her journey. And I think you'll be pretty surprised by what we uncover about her faith.
It's really interesting how history can kind of, reduce these really complex figures into just these caricatures, these simple ideas. And we forget that they had hopes and fears and anxieties just like us, and really a deep spiritual life, too. So today we're going to rediscover Marie Antoinette as a person of faith, and a person of faith navigating a very challenging and ultimately tragic life.
Yeah, and I love when we have those moments where history kind of comes alive. Like we're going to have a few of those today.
For sure.
So let's start with kind of her early life and marriage.
Yeah.
So imagine you're 14 years old, you're plucked from your family, and you're thrust into this arranged marriage with the Dauphin of France, the future Louis XVI.
I mean, it's hard to even grasp the pressure that she must have been under. Not just a young bride, but like this pawn in this huge game of international politics, leaving the relative comfort of the Austrian court for the rigid etiquette of Versailles. I mean, that's just a monumental shift for someone that age.
And the book actually shares excerpts from letters that she wrote to her mother, Empress Maria Theresa, and you can practically feel her anxieties just leaping off the page.
I bet.
She's struggling with the French language, she's overwhelmed by all the court's intricate rules, and she's constantly worried about spies, even in her own household.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and on top of all of that, let's not forget the just immense pressure to produce an heir. I mean, the weight of an entire kingdom was resting on her shoulders. And I think these anxieties, they really reveal a vulnerable young woman, not the haughty queen that history often portrays.
Yeah, it's really striking how much she confided in her mother in these letters. They're almost like a lifeline for her, a way to express her true feelings amidst the just stifling formality of Versailles.
Yeah, they provide this very intimate glimpse into her private world, away from the public eye, and I think they reveal a young woman deeply rooted in her Catholic faith, seeking solace and guidance in prayer.
Now, speaking of the Dauphin, he wasn't exactly Prince Charming. The book describes him as shy, awkward, and initially considered unattractive by the court.
Yeah.
Quite a contrast to the vibrant young Marie Antoinette.
Indeed. It definitely wasn't a love match, at least not at first. But what's really important to note is that a genuine affection did blossom between them. Their relationship, while starting as this political arrangement, did evolve into something much deeper, something real. Yeah, the book highlights that evolution beautifully. And it also really paints a picture of the just scandalous court of Louis XV, who was the reigning king at the time. Imagine the pressure on this young couple being expected to be the moral compass of a court that was known for just excess and intrigue.
Yeah, it's a stark juxtaposition, right? You've got this court that's just this whirlwind of extravagant spending. But at the same time, Marie Antoinette, in her personal life, expressed frustration with all this opulence.
Interesting.
Especially when she herself was lacking basic comforts.
Yeah.
So this really challenges that image of her as just frivolous and out of touch.
It really does. The book even mentions an incident where she singed her dress trying to dry it by the fire because one hadn't been prepared in her apartment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And apparently she also much preferred just simple meals, which is a far cry from the lavish feasts that were so common at court. And yet, history remembers her as the queen of extravagance.
It begs the question, how much of what we believe about these historical figures is shaped by, just selective storytelling, whose voices are amplified and whose are silenced? And how do those narratives really impact our understanding of their faith?
That's such a great point. We tend to box people into these neat little categories and forget the nuances, the contradiction, the evolution of their beliefs, especially when it comes to someone like Marie Antoinette, who's been subject to centuries of just misinterpretation.
Exactly. And as we delve further into her story, we'll really see how her faith, which is often overlooked or dismissed, played this vital role in shaping her actions and providing solace during her darkest hours.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So we've kind of set the stage here. You've got this young queen thrust into this foreign court, grappling with all this immense pressure, and a husband who is initially more of a puzzle than a partner. But this is really just the beginning. She eventually becomes the Queen of France.
Right.
And things get really interesting.
But it's important, I think, to understand how the tide turned against Marie Antoinette. It wasn't simply a matter of lavish spending, like some historical accounts might suggest.
Right.
There were really deliberate efforts to discredit her, fueled by those court rivalries and people who just wanted to undermine the monarchy as a whole.
Yeah, and the book really digs into this,
Right.
especially with the infamous affair of the diamond necklace.
Oh, yeah.
It's a story that's so wild, it almost sounds like something straight out of like a Dumas novel.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tale of deceit, forgery, and political maneuvering, and really kind of perfectly illustrates how Marie Antoinette, even though she was the intended recipient of this ridiculously expensive necklace, became the victim of an elaborate scam.
Okay, so break it down for us. How did she end up being blamed for something she had nothing to do with?
Well, there was a whole cast of characters involved.
Oh.
You had this social climber named Jeanne de la Motte, who was desperate to kind of elevate her status.
Okay.
And then there was this cardinal who wanted to regain the queen's favor, and he was very easily manipulated.
I know.
And then finally, there were forged letters made to look like they were from Marie Antoinette that implicated her in this plot to secretly acquire the necklace.
Wait, forged letters, like someone was literally writing fake letters as if they were the queen.
Exactly. And these letters were so convincing, they played on the cardinal's ambition and the pre-existing rumors about the queen's extravagance. And he was completely taken in, convinced he was acting on her behalf.
So she's completely innocent.
Right.
But she becomes the scapegoat.
Exactly. The scandal just exploded, and even though Marie Antoinette had nothing to do with it, the damage was done. Public opinion, already swayed by these negative portrayals, it solidified this image of her as frivolous and irresponsible.
Yeah, this whole affair is such a powerful example of how easily misinformation can spread, especially when it aligns with, existing biases.
For sure.
And it also shows how those in power can manipulate events to damage their opponents, even if it means like ruining an innocent person's reputation.
Indeed. And tragically, this was just the beginning of the storm that would really engulf Marie Antoinette. And we have to remember that all of this is happening against a backdrop of, increasing political and economic turmoil in France.
Yeah.
This is when the seeds of revolution were being sown.
Right, and it's like the court with all its intrigue and backstabbing seems almost like a microcosm of the larger kind of societal tensions that are brewing in France at the time. And unfortunately for Marie Antoinette, she becomes a symbol of everything that's wrong with the monarchy in the eyes of the revolutionaries.
That's right. And this is where I think we really see her faith come to the forefront. As her world is collapsing around her, as she's facing threats, uncertainties, she really turns to her religious devotion for strength and solace.
Oh, wow.
The book highlights how she just found this deep comfort in prayer, really clinging to her faith amidst all the chaos.
It must have been an incredible test of faith. Imagine, being stripped of your power, your freedom, facing constant threats, knowing that your loved ones are in danger.
It's almost unimaginable. And then, of course, comes the execution of Louis XVI. The book doesn't dwell on the execution itself, but it emphasizes the devastating impact that his death had on Marie Antoinette.
It's heartbreaking. This once powerful queen reduced to a prisoner, mourning the loss of her husband, her world in ruins, yet finding solace in her faith. It's really a testament to the power of belief in the face of just unimaginable suffering.
It truly is. And even in these unimaginable circumstances, she manages to maintain a sense of dignity and grace. The book portrays her as possessing this deep inner strength, this resilience that's fueled by her faith.
Her story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, faith can be that source of hope and strength. It can help us find meaning and purpose even when everything around us seems to be falling apart.
Absolutely. And as we move into the final act of her life, we'll see how Marie Antoinette's faith really becomes her anchor, guiding her through unimaginable trials and tribulations.
Yeah. It's incredible to think about how, even when she's stripped of all her royal trappings, imprisoned, and facing this uncertain fate, Marie Antoinette still finds solace in simple acts of faith. The book describes how she treasured this small prayer book, just clinging to it as a source of strength.
Yeah, the book really details how she continued to observe her religious practices as best she could, even in those harsh conditions of the prison. She finds comfort in prayer and this sense of peace amidst all this turmoil. It speaks volumes about the depth of her faith and its power to sustain her through this unimaginable hardship.
And even despite all the horrors that are happening all around her, she never loses sight of her humanity. The book talks about Rosalie Lemorlier, a servant at the conciergerie prison, who showed compassion to Marie Antoinette. And these small acts of kindness and the Queen's heartfelt gratitude for them just highlight that enduring power of human connection, even in the darkest places.
It's a really good reminder that even amidst suffering and despair, there's always these glimmers of hope, moments of grace. And for Marie Antoinette, her faith played a crucial role in helping her to recognize and appreciate those moments.
And then there's the trial itself, which was really just a sham orchestrated to condemn her. The book describes her strength during those proceedings, her refusal to give false testimony, even when it could have saved her life.
Wow.
She's accused of treason, conspiring against France, but she maintains her innocence.
It's really a testament to her character, her unwavering integrity. And her final letter to Madame Elizabeth, the king's sister, is so moving. It reveals her deep love for her family and her unshakable belief in her own innocence.
Right.
Even facing death, she refuses to compromise her principles.
And finally, on October 16th, 1793, Marie Antoinette is executed. The book doesn't shy away from the details. Her simple white dress, the way she carried herself with dignity, and her composure as she faces the guillotine. Her last words, "I die innocent," just echoing through history. It's such a powerful testament to her faith and her refusal to be broken by her enemies.
It's a chilling end to a life filled with both grandeur and suffering. But her story, particularly for those of us who share her Catholic faith, is ultimately one of hope and resilience. Stripped of everything, facing unimaginable adversity, Marie Antoinette found strength and solace in her beliefs.
This deep dive has been quite a journey, and I think we often forget that these historical figures were real people with these really complex inner lives. It's easy to get caught up in the grand narratives, but it's in these, more personal details, these glimpses into their faith and their struggles, that we truly connect with their humanity.
I completely agree. And in Marie Antoinette's case, I think it's particularly important for us as Catholics to really look beyond those often repeated historical judgments and recognize the depth of her faith. She wasn't perfect, but she faced her trials with remarkable courage and dignity, drawing strength from her relationship with God.
So as you reflect on Marie Antoinette's story, consider this. How did her faith shape her choices and actions, especially in the face of such immense suffering? And how can her example inspire us to find strength and solace in our own faith when we face challenges in our lives?
It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, faith can be a source of light and hope, guiding us through the storms and leading us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our purpose.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you've gained a new perspective on Marie Antoinette and her enduring legacy. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deeper.